How we doing, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Richie, and I got a special guest in the house. Dan Lebitard has Poppy. Richie Hicks Jr. has Mommy. Today, I bring in my beautiful mother, Miss Eunice Acevedo, to discuss a couple of topics regarding our favorite sports teams. We're going to hit on a few things that we see worthy of speaking on. Don't be surprised if co-host Mike Zappi bum rushes the party. He's been known for that. We're going to start. Go ahead.
Good morning, son. How are you? Dios te bendiga. How are
Oh,
you?
hey, Ma. I'm doing great. Good to see you.
Excellent. And I happen to like Mike Zappi, so he good.
Yeah, he good. All right. So, Mom, we got a Martian landing in the Bronx. It's Jason Dominguez time. I know that you pretty much watch every Yankees game. So, first and foremost, as you know, we recently kicked Harrison Bader to the curb.
Unceremoniously, but we did.
We recently kicked Josh Donaldson to the curb.
As we should have. Thank you.
Yes. Aaron Hicks before both of them.
I wish him well.
Fair enough. And he's doing okay in Baltimore. You know, he's found a new home. But I guess the question to you is, Mom, is first of all, with the September call-ups when you can expand the roster to 40, and with a season lost for the New York Yankees due to injuries and just anything that can go wrong how do you feel about the kid coming up? He could be the center fielder of the future.
I am very happy. I am very, very happy. We have such young talent. We have untapped talent. Okay. And that's what he brings. That's what these boys bring. I'm extremely excited, and I personally think that the Yankees should just go ahead and bite the bullet and bring them all up.
Yeah.
One by one. They bring a breath of fresh air to a, hate to say it, kind of stagnant organization right now.
You literally took the words out of my mouth. I was going to use the word stagnant. Good wordplay there.
Yeah. They just I don't know if it's the star and side, or because I think that we've done worse since they got that, or maybe I'm just tired of seeing the same old faces doing the same old thing. But I really feel that we should go with the youngins. Bring up them youngins. Okay? They got fire in their belly. They got a lot of fight because
they're used to every game taking every 3 to 4 at bats, sometimes 5 at bats, super personal, because you know when you're in the grind of a minor league AAA system, AA, working your way up to AAA, which is the highest level before the bigs. I feel that what's most important is that you have a profound love for the game, that sometimes when guys get paid or just go through the rigorous feelings of being a pro for so long, I think sometimes you lose that along the way. So at minimum, you know, there's a lot of parents that are going to be excited seeing their kids get their first hits. Those balls directly go back to the kids immediately to put in their mantles and their man caves. So it's exciting. It's exciting.
I apologize for interrupting you.
No, you're good.
Now with Volpe, I mean, our dear daughter to me, Delilah, her son loves Volpe. He knows everything about him. And you know what? Those are the the Jeters, the Marianos, the Pettits, let's just bring them up. Come on.
So
bring on the kids.
So I guess what you're saying is when you compare it to what the Yankees were able to do in the 90s during George Steinbrenner's suspension from MLB, Bob Watson, Buck Showalter, Brian Cashman was an understudy of Bob Watson.
Mm-hmm.
obviously Gene Stick Michael, an architect for those teams. They brought up all the kids. You know, Bernie was the first one. Bernie
Yeah.
was manning down center field.
Mm-hmm.
And what allowed that to happen was a genius trade when we sent Roberto Kelly to Cincinnati for Paul O'Neill.
Mm-hmm.
Bernie, who actually kind of looked like Arthur Ashe back in the day when he had those glasses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, before Bernie started taking on the contacts. He kind of looked like the great tennis player, rest in peace, Arthur Ashe. But anyway, he made his impact, and then slowly but surely all the kids started joining him, the Moes, the Pettits, the Jeters.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of people forget Jeter shared a baseball diamond with Don Mattingly for parts of 1995, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, the current captain at the time, the captain in waiting, nobody knew that yet.
Correct.
Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
it's an exciting time because I think in a lost season, it's very important to evaluate what you have moving forward. And I think there's only 6 veterans that should be back next year. And I'm talking about the offense, not the pitchers. Aaron Judge goes without saying. Obviously, we locked him up for a long time.
So,
Like it or not, Giancarlo Stanton, with the salary he commands, yes, he will be back. You just got to hope he stays healthy.
oh, Mike. But go ahead.
Yeah, formerly Mike. Jose Trevino, who I think is going to be a phenomenal mentor for a young Austin Wells.
Yeah. Yeah.
For the catcher position, Austin Wells, catcher of the future. Anthony Rizzo, who unfortunately had a poor season. The Tatis collision definitely set him back, and he also has a history of back issues.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe with 1 year left on the contract, I think Anthony Rizzo is okay to come back for 1 more year. Gleyber Torres, who has actually impressed me this year for the most part.
He has. He's made some boo-boos, but he's made up for it. He's made boo-boos, in my opinion.
Last veteran would be IKF, and I think his value is because you could basically put him anywhere.
You could put him anywhere. I mean, I think he pitched more times than Montes this year, didn't he?
Yeah, sad but true.
Okay, I just wanted to, because I thought Montes was a pitcher. Okay. But anyway.
Yeah, sad but true. Bad trade. So, you know, we'll kind of forecast that into this, the immediate trajectory of building the baby bombers. I guess in conclusion, what Mom and I are thinking and looking for is the best ability rather is availability. And when you have a lot of dinosaurs that have been catching injuries and just can't stay on the field, I think seeing these kids gives the Yankees a much needed shot in the arm. I think it goes without saying. And, you know, it's invaluable experience because next year, now that they got a taste of the show, I think some of these kids could be opening day starters. And when you have a leader like an Aaron Judge, when you have a leader like an Anthony Rizzo, when you have a leader like a Garrett Cole, I think those are 3 guys that are great examples of team first.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
When Garrett Cole doesn't pitch, he looks like a coach in the bullpen, in the dugout. He's constantly invested in every pitch of what his Yankee teammates are doing, and he's always willing to lend an ear and to speak on what he's seeing. And I think it goes without saying that Garrett Cole could have a future, if not a manager, possibly a pitching coach after his playing days are over.
I would love to have him as a pitching coach.
Yeah, one day. He's still very much, competing for Cy Youngs, but one day perhaps. Former Yankee, I want to ask you about this. And it's not a J-Lo related question. This is more about his playing days. We could talk about the J-Lo thing too if you care to. Will the Yankees ever retire 13 for Alex Rodriguez?
Yeah, I hope not.
You don't like it?
I don't know. No, I understand all the MVPs. I get it. And probably if I thought without emotion, I would just turn around and say, hey, give it to him. I don't think that he is what we used to. I'm a baseball purist, which makes, and I am also, I mean, I've been a Yankee fan since I was in my mama's womb. So, and you know that she used to listen to the games.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm sure she listened to them while she was pregnant with me. And I don't, he's not a great Yankee.
Some of your reasoning based on some of the lies that led to a suspension, doing interviews, lying to a great person like Peter Gammons who covered the game, essentially dirtying up the uniform, so to speak, like with the steroid suspensions.
Stripes. I don't, it's very easy to say because you could turn around and say, oh, back in the day, they all drank, blah, blah. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your character. And as a Yankee fan and as a fan of because remember, I love Yankee players, but no Yankee player is bigger than the Yankee organization in my eyes. Okay. So for you to retire a number, you have to be a proud Yankee, but the fans need to see you as a proud Yankee.
And you don't think he necessarily has ever really put it all the way on for them?
I think no, no.
I think it's valid. My biggest holdup with that is like, if you're putting him on a wall that has great character people like his teammate Derek Jeter, like the captain before Jeter, Don Mattingly, like the late great captain Thurman Munson.
I'm sorry,
then,
but I do apologize for interrupting you.
no,
Alex Rodriguez does not belong in the same sentence with those three. I, not in my book. Not in my book. Maybe a lot of people will disagree with me, I'm sure. And if you do disagree with me, just remember that your comments need to be respectful and within the bounds of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. So come at me constructively and with dignity and respect. Other than that, move on. But no, number 13 should not be retired for Alex Rodriguez under the Yankee organization.
now just for shits and giggles, are you a J-Lo fan?
Yes.
Say no more. Speaking of numbers, is Jalen Hyatt wearing number 13 a good or a bad thing? As you know, there was a very famous number 13 in the previous Giants regime.
Okay.
That was traded a few years ago that I guess you could say his career trajectory was very much looking like pure greatness. Doing a podcast, call you back. Would you say that Beckham at the time lining up statistically with the likes of a Jerry Rice, he was very much on par to go down as one of the greats. He did suffer a very bad injury as a member of the Giants in his second to last stint with us, season with us. But I think when you talk about numbers, you got to talk about the overall impact. And it goes without saying that a guy like Lawrence Taylor, generationally speaking, some people consider him the greatest football player ever, let alone just defensively. Phil Simms.
That's because he was.
And I respect your opinion. Phil Simms, Eli Manning, Frank Gifford, Michael Strahan, that cloth of giant player, it goes without saying why they would be retired. But I've just seen a fan base that is so invested in something so minuscule as choosing a number. And I find it to just be so negative and backward thinking because, guys, the season is a week away. We have a great regime. Joe Shane has done his best to ball on a budget, as I like to say. And I really believe that the New York Giants are trending upward. So when I think that you have Giant fans that are still looking in the rear view, worried about a player who is currently in Baltimore, who is trying to redefine his own career after many an injury, who was paid pretty well, and I'm happy for him in that regard because he did leave a lot of money on the table from the original Giant deal to go over to get out of Cleveland and win a championship with the Rams, which he was very instrumental in. He had a great Super Bowl before yet another injury. That injury has sidelined him up until right now this year, where he's finally healthy. And God willing, he's able to become the player he once was. I think what I'm trying to say is, yes, once a Giant, always a Giant. But once a Giant, it doesn't necessarily mean that your number can't ever be looked at, touched, folded. You know what I'm saying? Like guys, we have had greater iconic players. And the greatest moment of Odell's Giant career was a one-handed catch in a game that we lost.
That does not give him ownership of the New York Football Giants number 13. You don't own your number. Once a Giant, always a Giant. Absolutely. And he made, I loved him.
Oh, for sure.
I couldn't have loved him more than anybody else other than his mom. Okay. And this is a business at the end of the day. Once again, another team. Okay. I love my New York Football Giants, the organization. Okay. No player, including Michael Strahan. And I believe that I gave birth to him. Okay. Including Michael Strahan, has ownership of the organization.
Speaking of Mike,
he has ownership of his number.
Speaking of Mike, his daddy knocked out Ken Norton Jr. in a boxing match for the military.
Hey.
So Michael Strahan definitely comes from some legitimate stock because, Ken Norton was great in his own right. His son actually was a teammate of recent guest William Barnum Floyd. Shout out to him. That was awesome, him coming on the show. But yeah, I get your point. I think my bigger issue is it's okay to miss a player. I just get so frustrated that when the organization is finally in a healthy place after a decade of dismay, that now you want to talk about things that we should have or could have done. Like I'm hearing about the Micah Parsons draft where we screwed that up, but people don't take a second and breathe. Yes, Kadarius Toney was a poor draft pick, but you know what? When we traded him to KC, we got a third-round pick. That third-round pick got dealt to Las Vegas, and now we got a great tight end. And Darren Waller. God willing, he stays healthy, but he's a hell of a player.
Well, you have to understand something, Rich. Okay. Not all Giant fans, okay, understand the meat and potatoes that make up the team. You just don't go to the neighborhood bar and say, "You're tall, come to me." No, it takes years. It takes practice. It takes heart, soul, grit, sweat. Okay? So when you consider all the different players, okay, that have come, all the different players that have gone, all the players that have left, that have cemented the fact that they were there. Okay? When you have all those players, people don't understand how that came about. They just see what you did right, what you did wrong, okay? But they don't understand the fundamentals and the bottom part of it, okay? The gritty part of it. But yet, they feel that they are so knowledgeable that they can comment on trades, on upper managerial decisions, Okay. And just like this young man taking off a number 13, you have fans losing their caca. Why? Why? Odell Beckham Jr. does not play for the New York Football Giants. Odell Beckham Jr. does not own number 13. And since he does not own number 13, did anybody even say, man, what a nice thing that young man did. I wonder if he's doing it in honor of Beckham.
And I like that segue because, you know,
You wouldn't want to say that because that would be putting a positive where you can just go ahead and just throw your bunk left and right. And there are some people. I mean, there are some Giants pages that I go on, and I'm like, who are these people? And what are they watching? What are they watching? Who are they talking to? And I hate to say it, but these females on these pages, what the hell are they thinking? They need to close up shop because they're making themselves look stupid.
As our buddy Quentin Moore would say, some of them don't know the difference between a press coverage and elite press on, and some of them don't know the difference between a touchdown and touching themselves.
You got that right. And I have to agree with Quentin. I have to agree with him. Okay? Because I mean, I watch football. I love football. But I wish I knew as much football as your grandma Nancy. She could teach you still some stuff if she were still here. Okay? She was a walking encyclopedia.
Well, it's funny that because, like you take it back to that time when I was like a kid.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost impossible to not, have a growing interest as a young man, into addition to just being a kid, into all of this. Because, you take that big old box TV that Grandpa had,
Mm-hmm.
he was constantly invested in the games because, Grandpa gambled sometimes, and he did rather well for himself too, because I think he had a nice discipline for how to gamble properly. At any rate,
$20 and that was it.
Yeah, but he always did a lot more than, he got a nice return because he knew what he was doing. But anyway, what I'm getting at is at a young age, it was always immersed in the family that was always something that was happening. And, even like as a little kid, I played offensive line when I first started. I was a chunky kid. I had to get skinny and da-da-da. And, Grandpa's over here telling me when I'm watching football, he's like telling me who to watch. And obviously the New York Giants were on constantly because Sunday Ticket didn't exist yet. The point to be made is like he would tell me, watch the offensive lineman. And of course, as a little stupid kid, I'm like, oh, why? They don't score touchdowns. This is boring. He's like, because that's your job and you're going to learn something if you pay attention. And see how he's doing this. Jumbo Elliott was one of the first guys that I paid attention to. William Roberts, some of the meat and potato O-line guys for the 90 Giants, because 1990 was the first year that I watched football.
I think we're very fortunate because of the fact that you didn't watch Sunday football. You were educated during Sunday football.
Sure.
You wasn't your grandparents never saw it almost just as yes, they adored. I mean, they could watch football every day if they had the opportunity to.
Yeah, no doubt.
They always used it as an opportunity to teach. Always. They always used it as an opportunity to teach. And I love that because you learn so much.
Sure. It was a cool time. But getting back to some of this idiocracy amongst the fan base, I'm truly convinced that maybe some of these fools were going through some identity crisis because, as you know, before the New York Giants won an all-important Christmas Eve game against the Jets a decade ago, I like to call them the 7-Eleven babies, and people like Idris, people like Quentin jump on board with that train of thinking too, where it almost seems like they don't know their team's history, because what really bugs me out It's the same thing with hip hop. I can't call myself a hip hop fan if I don't know the origins. You know what I'm saying? Because like without a Big Daddy Kane, there's no Jay-Z. Without a Heavy D, or without maybe certain metrics of dancehall music, there's not a Biggie Smalls, because Biggie also embraced his Jamaican roots.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? Without a KRS-One on some metrics, real third eye thinkers like a Rakim, I do think that everybody borrows, like a Tupac Shakur. Everybody borrows.
Yes. Yes.
Without a Roxanne Shante, the first great rapper to come, and she was a female rapper, mind you, to come out of Queensbridge Projects, there's no Nasir Jones. Mm-hmm. Without a Big Pun, there's not a Joel Ortiz.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is, to take it full circle, is know your history. It's like, if you're going to see a post about a slap in the face to one particular player, I could immediately see that they don't even know who Harry Carson is, because that dude, you can make an argument, he's the second greatest Giants linebacker behind Lawrence Taylor. Some people would say Carl Banks. Some people would say Sam Huff. But the point is that there's LT, and then there's that next tier of great ones. Harry Carson undeniably was great. He wore 53, and a lot of Giant fans feel that it's not cool that his number still gets worn. Mm-hmm. And it is what it is.
What it is.
O'Shane Ximines recently re-brought back after an initial cut. Mm-hmm. He wears that number. Mm-hmm. Many other numbers that are great in Giants lore have been worn. Number 80 has always been a cool number for the Giants. Jeremy Shockey, Victor Cruz.
And you know what? And if I had the opportunity, if I were in their shoes, I would want to take one of those numbers too. Okay? The number's available. If it's available, yes, I would do it too. I would do it too if for no other reason to honor a particular player and say, hey, I'm proud to wear this number. Okay?
I like that. And you know, another thing, I feel that like it sets a standard that you're bestowing on yourself, that like you got some shoes to fill, because like him or not, during his peak with the New York Giants, Odell Beckham Jr. was damn good. Unfortunately, to your point, it's a business. There were some feelings. Many people will tell you that they're not pleased with the job that former GM Dave Gettleman did, and maybe that could have been a salvageable situation. But I always try to look for positives after a negative. Odell Beckham Jr. did win that elusive Super Bowl, unfortunately for a different organization. The New York Giants, because of that trade, were ultimately able to get Dexter Lawrence, who, in my opinion, is the best nose tackle in professional football right now. Mm-hmm. So, you know, the football world keeps spinning. And I want to reiterate, I have no bad feelings for Odell Beckham Jr. I just think that when people are going to wall out and say that this is so bad, you got to take it a step further and know a little bit about your history, because when you sound like that, you basically sound like somebody who's probably only been watching this organization casually and maybe for less than a decade.
Yes.
And I'm never going to punish nobody for being younger than me or not knowing a lot. But it's like, bro, I did my research. I was too young to remember the 86 Super Bowl. You know why I know about that? Because I watched it and really, picked the brains of people that know about this stuff, a little older than me. But I did my due diligence, because that's the one Super Bowl team that I was too young to remember in our history.
Mm-hmm. You do not have to be old to know history.
Not by any means.
You don't need to be. You don't have to be a. You don't have to be a fan for many. For all of your life, whatever. There are people that don't become football fans until they become adults. Their 20s and their 30s. And that's okay. That's all good.
Yeah. It's not like some classism deal or like some kind of deal where we're trying to like outdo or put down. But it's the funniest shit, because I feel that like, when I catch more heat from the Giant fan base, or throw more heat at the Giant fan base, than I do with Philly, when I do with Dallas, San Francisco, yada, yada. And it is like, I'll be honest, the New York Giants are not every football team. Our original owner's nickname is on every game-issued football.
Yes.
The New York Giants are the reason why the Green Bay Packers didn't go defunct, because we sent them Vince Lombardi. We didn't send them, but we might as well have.
Yes.
And I think it's safe to say that we gave the Dallas Cowboys wings by giving them, not giving them directly, Tom Landry in favor of an Ali Sherman hire, who was a good coach, but obviously not on the level of those two.
No.
So when I think about historically what the New York Giants mean to the NFL, and when I see that it's kind of embarrassing to have some of these knuckleheads in our fan base, I could truly understand why people like Worm, why people like LPG, why people like Quentin Moore, and there's so many other phenomenal Giant fans out there who roll their eyes and keep it moving, because it's like, man, like if you're gonna rep it, like it's not just like some flavor of the month shit. This is like what we do.
Because they bothered to find out the history. All the people you mentioned are younger than me.
Like you look at a man like LPG, his father, may he rest in peace. That was a great father and son thing that those two had together, going to so many games over the years, and I think it's beautiful. No, my dad wasn't a Packer fan, but he passed down to me the knowledge of football, not just on the field, but also as someone who would just always tell me. My father's not a Giants fan, may he rest in peace, was not a Giants fan. But oddly enough, he taught me more about the New York Giants on the come up because he just knew so much about the organization.
Correct. And he was not a New York Giants fan. He was a diehard Packers fan. But yet, he made sure that the team that you liked, the team that you were following, that you knew about that team. Because we had this thing called, I believe it's called the Fair Weather Fan. Okay? It's called, I don't even know why they're called fans. They should just be people that watch games. And
No, it rhymes. They should be called stands, because a lot of times when I look at like the deeper element of not just the Giant fans, but like a lot of fan bases, I'm convinced that like they're more worried about being seen, check out my pictures on social media, all this bullshit that don't got a damn thing to do with the team.
Hey, I'm rocking this Yankees cap. I'm rocking this Giants cap. Okay.
I want to interrupt you for 1 second. Mike Zappi, my co-host, this one is hard to say, but I have to send a shout out to Gil Brandt, who passed away this morning. This is a sad day for Cowboys Nation, undoubtedly. Yeah, that is sad. I did not, just saw this right now as we're speaking. So that is unfortunate. But, once again, we're talking about history. We're talking about people that have made an impact on this game. That name goes without saying. All right, gonna move it along. Is Eli Manning a Hall of Famer?
Oh, come on. Who are you asking that to? Me? Mm-hmm. Let me think. Yes.
All right. Second part of this question, is he a first ballot Hall of Famer?
Okay. Do you want the emotional question or do you want the logical question?
We got time. Give me them both.
Of course. Of course he should go in the first round because he's my Eli and I love him. And because he is Brady's daddy. Yes, absolutely, in my heart of hearts. Yes. Now, it's a good possibility that he won't go first round. I won't lose my shit over it. Okay? Because there is some logic going on here. Okay? But you know what I would like to see is him and Coach Coughlin go in at the same time.
Got to pause you here. This is what I talked to you about off air. His name will likely make them a first ballot, though. And I'll be honest, that's something that I don't want
I
because of the Manning name.
want, in that sense, don't want him to go first because of the fact that no matter what, they're going to turn around and say it's a Manning thing.
But his class has a lot of guys that are honestly a little more deserving than him.
Which is
Zappy's going to keep typing. So tell me who you see. Actually, Zap, if you don't mind, let's do a breakdown of Rivers and Ben. You could type in as Mom and I continue to converse about this.
Oh, Rich, I like Big Ben. Ben, that's one tough dude. He personified the grit. Okay.
Zappy has Big Ben as a first ballot. I tell people this all the time when I revisit the 04 draft, the three big names, Rivers, Eli, Ben.
Yeah.
The way I rank them, Ben would be first, Eli would be second, Rivers would be third. Some people will say I'm out of my mind and Rivers is better than both of them, but I think winning and winning when it matters goes a long way. Rivers actually has the best stats out of the three.
Yeah.
But this is the thing.
I think Big Ben should go first. And yes, you heard this. You heard me say Big Ben should go first.
Big Ben was the contingency plan if the Giants were not able to swing the trade with the San Diego Chargers for Eli Manning. Big Ben was the next guy up. I don't think that it was ever going to be Rivers for real. I think they saw Rivers as a guy that was meant to go to San Diego, and that was their plan all along because they did want Eli, and Archie made it clear. And Eli didn't make fans out of the gate because, John Elway, similar to him, basically said, I'm not playing for you. And then a lot of football fans, that didn't put a good taste in their mouth. And over time, I think Eli was able to win over the respect of NFL fans because of his trials and tribs. But I'll put it to you like this. I'll give you the pros, I'll give you the cons, and I'll give you why I think he's a second or third ballot guy. When he retired, I'm going to give you some pros. When he retired, only 6 players had more passing touchdowns than him. His Ironman streak, which was broken up abruptly by former head coach Ben McAdoo at the time, was second to only Brett Favre. I said it earlier in the show, the best ability is availability, and Eli Manning was always available and was always the quiet, strong leader for the New York Football Giants. I think when his huevos dropped, so to speak, was when Tiki Barber went after him and when Eli stood up for himself. I think it really got notice of his veteran teammates like the Strahans, like the Shockies, those characters that were still part of the Giants in that 07 run going in. Reason I put Ben ahead of Eli, I just think Ben was a more consistent playoff visitor. Not think, that's a fact. Eli, unfortunately, only had 4 Pro Bowls.
Yeah.
But I do believe that when you're getting graded, you need to get graded by who your peers were. And I think that's the measure of your greatness. Like, I'm not going to go out of my way to compare Kenny Stabler and Joe Namath to Eli because they played in completely different eras.
Completely.
Right. So when I see people shit on Terry Bradshaw and Joe Namath's stats, I'm like, guys, it wasn't a passing league yet. It was in the infancy.
Mm-hmm. That is
Joe Namath, his impact is undeniable because of the fact that his New York Jets basically ushered in the Super Bowl era. That was the most, like it or not, that was the most important game in the history of the league.
Yep.
So, the pros, 117 wins, that's 12th on the all-time list, but unfortunately the 117 losses is even higher on the list. The 8-4 playoff record, the road record in the playoffs, the only man to win 2 games as a visitor in Lambeau, to me, those are all check marks. He did defeat, in some people's eyes, many people's eyes, the greatest quarterback head coach duo, not once, but twice on the grandest of stages. Sadly, I also think what keeps Eli out on a first ballot is that his final 5 to 6 seasons in a Giants uniform he was not surrounded by a competent front office, a competent offensive line.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest, most critical mistake that the New York Giants made was firing Tom Coughlin unceremoniously. They separated Tom Coughlin from Eli, and I think that was a fatal mistake. And it proved to be true because up until we hired Brian Dable, we have not had any true continuity or a coach that players have run through a wall for. He kind of has that Parcells effect. And
Yeah.
Brian Dable is still learning the nuances of being a head coach. It's not easy in the greatest city in the world, but I think the team of him, Shane, and Wink and Kafka bowling on a budget. I can't wait for 24 when the Giants really get some cap relief. Eli, third ballot, third try. I think Eli gets it because I can't justify him, and I love him, but I can't justify him getting in the Hall of Fame quicker than a Terrell Owens nor a Randy Moss.
No, sir. Not at all. Not at all. I love him, but I'm not a liar.
I will go this far, though, and maybe some people will say I have him ranked too high, and that's all right. You can get at me and tell me what you think.
Yeah.
A lot of quarterbacks have played that position in the history of the league. I have Eli Manning in my top 25, more towards the back of the top 25, but he does make my top 25. Some people got him in the 30s, some people in the 40s, and to each their own. I do believe that winning in the circumstances and some of the teams that he had to go through does solidify a lot of that.
Yeah. Well, I believe he should be first round. No.
So we got, and even if Rivers got in first ballot, I wouldn't be upset about it. But my knock on him is that he couldn't ever win the big game. And it's not just one player; it's a team achievement. But the proof is in the pudding. He never truly did win when it counted. The one thing that Ben and Phillip had in common is that neither one of them were ever able to beat New England. Eli does have that over him.
Twice.
Over both of them. Indeed. Twice. Indeed. Because whenever the Steelers won, they didn't have to go directly through the New England Patriots. They managed to, every time they made the Super Bowl, which was 3 times, winning 2 of them. But, Eli, third. I'm going to say third try in. Mom, before we get out of here, I have one last question for you. What's your greatest sports memory? It doesn't have to be reduced to one. You come up with a couple. Your greatest sports memory. Or throw a couple at me.
Wow. Greatest sports memory. The Baldwin game. No, I'm only kidding.
Oh, damn. That's cold. The timeout. Let me pause you. Pee Wee football, 9-year-old. We're playing at Mitchell Field right by Hofstra. My Inwood Buccaneers engineering a 93-yard drive. We get hit with holding on the 3-yard line. It wasn't Callahan's fault because that kid was so damn big. But anyway, we got hit with a penalty on the doorstep of the goal line. We were on our way to win the championship. Yeah. I was snotty-nosed and crying out of my eyes the whole ride back to Inwood. But a great experience nonetheless. Definitely a coming-of-age moment for me. My pop let me stay up late that night. He was real proud of me, so he let me see the Giants on Monday Night Football. We played the Phoenix Cardinals that night. Anyways, go ahead.
I guess my greatest sports memory would be the day that took me to Yankee Stadium for the retirement of this player that they had that my mom kind of liked. She kept the picture, one of his pictures.
It's in my podcast room right now. You're talking about Mickey Mantle.
Yes, sir.
So you went to Mickey Mantle Day when he retired. He came out in the little bullpen car, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir.
That's dope.
Nothing else has
could really top it
compared to that, because although I was such a young girl, I knew that something around me was so big. This was so huge. This was so
once in a lifetime kind of moment.
Great. Once in a lifetime.
My late
Well,
Titi Deb, your former sister-in-law, took me to the 1998 Yankees parade, and she had phenomenal seating because of some connections that she had, and we were basically right in front of Joe
took you.
DiMaggio.
Your godmother took you.
Yeah, and Joe DiMaggio is one and the same, an icon similar to a Mickey Mantle. I
Yeah.
mean, when one of the greatest songs ever written has "Where Are You, Joe DiMaggio" on the hook, that just touches the surface on what he meant to pop culture in that era. Interesting fact about Joe DiMaggio is that he, till his dying days, he always visited Marilyn Monroe's grave, even though many suspected they never had the best marriage, so to speak.
Because he loved her dearly and knew that she was a victim.
Indeed, a victim of so much, and that's for another show for another time.
Oh,
I'm
hmm
gonna give you mine. I have like two, maybe three. My two happiest sports moments. Number one, undeniably, Super Bowl 42, the New York Giants upsetting the New England Patriots. I think
hmm
because of the miracle aspect of it and how bad New York needed to beat that region after the collapse of the New York Yankees 3-0 against Boston. Game 7, 0-4, the Boston Red Sox, New York Yankees. That's literally my worst sports moment. And you could sprinkle in Miracle at the Meadowlands 2.0 as well as Super Bowl 35. Not one of my worst sports moments, but one of my most painful was seeing the 2001 New York Yankees come up one inning short against the Arizona Diamondbacks because of the obvious heartache that all Americans felt, but I think as New Yorkers, we felt it a little deeper because of the obvious 9/11. But I got to say, I was so very proud of that team, and I think it was appropriate the way it ended because
Yeah.
it wasn't a time to be happy.
It wasn't a time to celebrate. Not for
Not by
us.
any means. Not by
Not,
any means.
not for us.
Oh,
Well,
wow, this is cool. Listen to Mike Zappi. 21 August 2022. Uh, as my viewers know, my father passed away that day. Why is that a big deal 5 years after the fact? Well, here's the story. Recently departed Josh Donaldson hit a walk-off home run after I basically called everything that was going to happen, and I didn't believe a word I said. And every aspect of loading the bases prior to Donaldson's home run happened exactly like it did. What kind of added to the mystique of that, and saying, oh, maybe Pops had something to do with that, like on some joking stuff, was the fact that there was a rain delay, which forced Tampa's pitchers out. And it's like everything lined up for like a fluky win. And the Yankees, if I'm not mistaken, were enduring either a 5 or 6 game losing streak at the time. And of all people, Josh Donaldson, who didn't exactly have a lot of great Yankee moments, for him to be the hero in that moment was nothing short of pretty miraculous. And Zappy, thank you for remembering that. That's pretty damn cool. I got Zappy. I want you to do your own video and get at me at this. NFL MVP Justin Herbert, rushing leader Derrick Henry, NFL Defensive Player of the Year, your man Micah Parsons, NFL Offensive Player of the Year Justin Jefferson, NFL sacks leader Micah Parsons, NFL Coach of the Year, I'm going Robert Saleh this time. NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, I'm going Bijan Robinson. NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year, Brett might be happy with this, I'm going Christian Gonzalez. I wanted to say that I had a great time chatting with you, Mom. This was a fun one, kind of an improv show. I'm glad that you conquered how to log in because you had a few complications on your side, but really a fun show today. So thank you so much for hanging with me.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
And that's the cool thing about the video chats, because it kind of shortens the distance because sometimes I don't visit you as much as I would like to. But this is a cool way to spend an hour together. And to be honest with you, you may have said this to me in the past, and maybe it went over my head or I didn't remember. But I was this many years old when I found out that you were at Mickey Mantle Day, and that's pretty damn cool. Please like and subscribe to the channel, the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast on YouTube. And just to give you guys a little bit of a heads up, within the next couple of days, we will be dropping our NFC West preview, which is our final division preview. Every Wednesday coming up in between the hours of 8:30 and 9, we'll have an announcement for each show, weekly predictions for the NFL, and other topics regarding the sports world. We will keep you in the know more than likely we got, obviously the playoffs coming up for baseball, not for my Yankees, but for Zappy's Rangers. So we're going to be covering that as well. And look for some of that on weekends. And don't forget, every Monday at the start of the football season, we're going to be giving you our Monday morning quarterbacks, the good, the bad, and the ugly of everything that happened on your NFL Sunday. For Miss Eunice Acevedo, my mama, I am your host, Richie, and it's been a pleasure. Have a great day, everybody. I got to go get in the shower and get to work. Have a great one.
Dios te bendiga.